Hello, this is Robert Sanchez. I'm an assistant city editor with the Daily Herald newspaper. We're pleased to begin an endorsement interview with the candidates for the DuPage County Circuit Court Clerk race in the November 2020 election. I'm joined here with the candidates. We have the incumbent, Chris Kachiroubas, who's a Republican, running against his Democratic challenger, Candice Adams. And I'd like to begin with you, Candice. You made the decision to run for a seat held by an incumbent who's been in the position since 2004, if I'm correct. Sure. What made you decide to seek this position?
I thought he was retiring. I'm just kidding. I'm running for this position because all my life, so I'm an attorney, and all my life I knew that I wanted to get into politics. I graduated with a degree with political science and a minor in criminology as my background. And I knew in 2016, when the world changed to what it is, that I really wanted to get into politics. And so I decided then that I needed to start, at least at the very beginning, looking into what the options were. Along the way, I volunteered with my legal degree with Cook County Expungement Summit. They put on an expungement summit once a year under Dorothy Brown. And to see the number of people that show up to that and the number of attorneys that volunteer to work for that, to help people really have an access to a clearer pathway to jobs and housing and military entrance and military rank. When the time came, this was just a really good fit for me. I oversee, I'm a manager at the firm that I work for now. So I oversee a team of attorneys and other staff members throughout the firm over a department that generates revenue into the high dollar amount. And before law school, I had a large or extensive management experience there as well, managing departments that were large revenue generators. And this office just really seemed like a very good fit for me.
Very good. So, Chris, tell us why the decision to run again.
In my original decision to run again, as always, sometimes there's work left undone. And one of the things that was left undone is that we entered into an agreement in 2019 with the state of Illinois regarding e-filing. It's taken a huge effort to migrate that information over onto e-filing. One of the strange turns of event was everyone in the state of Illinois under a MR agreement by the Supreme Court had to be part of e-filing, okay? We started e-filing in 2004 in DuPage County. Nobody seemed to be moving the ball very quickly over the next, what would be about 13 years or so. The Supreme Court said, okay, that's enough. We're done with this. And you guys are all going to mandatory e-filing by 2018. Well, it came and went, and they entered into an agreement with a national firm, Tyler Technologies. In that, it was a considerable effort for the other 101 counties. The only one that was granted an exemption was DuPage County. And DuPage County was granted that exception is because we are far and away exceeded the Supreme Court requirements. More to the point, we are kind of ahead of this national company. So it's taken us a little bit different direction where we would have to go build a bridge back to what Tyler could do to bring it forward for DuPage County and the benefits of the taxpayers and the legal community. So it's taken us a while, and we've now gone on full online with Tyler Technologies as of July of 2019. Well, going forward with it, it has always been a little bit difficult making it all work. And so one of my jobs and one of my responsibilities is to make sure that this thing works for the benefit of the taxpayers and the benefit of the legal community and the general public, and work it to 100%. So that was a kind of a job undone and unfinished. There's so many other things to do and things like that. And one of the things that leaps out at me is how do we, in this point in time with the COVID-19 world, how do we make it even better than what we're doing now? What about taking, being able to, for traffic, okay, a traffic violation is probably one of the few things that every one of us, general public, will be involved with the court involved with, okay? How do we deal with that? All right, one of the things that I have been anxiously working at since 2004 and finally got it was to get rid of dropping the credit card as your form of bond. Okay, we did that finally through the Supreme Court Article 5 committee and through general legislation. Now a judge, Senator Nolan at that time, was kind enough to kind of guide that bill through, where we stopped taking a driver's license for bad left turns. Okay, it was just kind of standardized operation. So then what we do is now, how do we even make that better in this world of COVID, contactless? How do we do it? What I'd like to do is take that next step and say, okay, why can't we pay that simple speeding ticket in the window? Okay, rather than having to go through the process of e-appeals or through the e-access and everything like that, which I've made available, why not be able to, we can pay for a hot dog in the window, right? We can take a police officer and give them the credit card and be done with it and move forward, and all you do is sign your plea of guilty and request supervision. Goes to the clerk's office, be done with it. Those are some of the things that I think that are going to come out of this, where we're going to look at it and say, why can't we get that done? Now, it will take maybe some Supreme Court rule changes, okay? It might take some general legislation changes, but why can't we get that done? There are other states who do this, okay? That you can actually pay for your ticket right in the window and get out of the process of going to court, standing around doing the thing, or even under may appears, which is which is $164 that you need to pay. How about getting it done and be done with it, plead guilty, ask for supervision, and move on with your life? There's quite a few of these little small things that need to be done and finished as a matter of course.
So, Candice, I guess this goes to sort of my next question I was going to ask you. What ways would you improve the operation of the office over there?
Yeah. And I mean, Chris is right. The DuPage County is more modern than most of the other counties around us, certainly. But there are some things where I think that we could really use some modernization. First, within the courtroom, some of the courtrooms are still not paperless. They still have papers. And so I want to speed up that process. And one of the ways I want to do that and make that transition a little bit clearer is right now, at least in my experience, so I appear in court, there's one clerk in the office or in the courtroom, and often that clerk is tasked with handling both the court call and then training us new attorneys these attorneys that are new to the system on how to use the system. So one of the ways I would help to increase or move along the modernization process is to do this a little bit of personnel reorganization within the department. Another thing that I would do is work on the website a little bit. I mean, we have a very cohesive county website that has all the different departments in it, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's aesthetically very pleasing. But if you look at our website for the clerk's office compared to websites around us and how easy it is to access the information, there's just different ways. Like if you look at Will County and like how you're able to find where you immediately go to pay a ticket and things like that, modernizing our website so it meets the needs of the users that come for it, the attorneys that come to use the clerk's office, or the people that are looking for other resources. Those are the two big initiatives that I would do. But then there will be other initiatives too along the lines of bringing in perhaps a texting system to remind people of court dates and when they're supposed to show up. Because the more that they're reminded, the more likely that they're actually to appear, right? So things like that where we can use the technology that's out now and stay up to date with that is how I would like to modernize the systems a little bit more in our office.
What about that, Chris? What about the idea of just texting people who have court dates?
Outstanding idea. You're hired.
Thanks.
No, it is not as simple as that in terms of acquiring phone numbers, okay? There's a little hesitancy by the general public, okay, to grab that information. Years ago, I started in 2011 with the Secretary of State's office in trying to make email addresses part of the minimum identifiers. I went to the Secretary of State, I wrote a couple letters, and this wheel turns very slowly with other governmental agencies. The Secretary of State would be the perfect depository for email addresses. And I'm going to compliment Candice on this, because if we could, I'd love to make phone numbers part of the minimum identifiers, okay, in doing the texting. But so you're garnering information, okay? So the police, my conversations with the chiefs of police associations, state police, they said, you know what, we're not anxious to write down numbers, but what if the Secretary of State garnered? So that's when we started this whole thing. We pursued it. We got a bill passed prior to that where electronic notification was allowed by law, okay? So, you know, notification is still under the purview of the Supreme Court, okay? So we got the rules changed and we got the statute changed, okay? So we got both of those. So looking at this, we could, in fact, use both email, and I'll add on to the texting, if we're allowed to garner that information, okay, lawfully, and hold on to it and use it as part of the notification process. A lot of times, which when we talk about what would be obvious things, they still have to be rule changes by the Supreme Court, okay? And the Supreme Court is very guarded about how it allows its powers to be used, okay? And so sometimes there's a pushback from the general public, say, wait a minute, how much information are you garnering from me, and what are you going to use that information for, okay? I would love that idea. I'd love to get involved in that part of it. And we have been since 2011. The Secretary of State's office would be the perfect depository for it, but they seem reticent to do it and go forward with it. If I may comment on the clerks in the courtroom, we have single courtrooms with 44 courtrooms operating. Right now, we have 150 people, including myself, in the clerk's office. If we currently have, at any one time, 44 clerks working. If we were to take away any more and add additional clerks to that, we probably would take away and strain the counter space, answering phones, the people that are operating, adding information and data into the record, imaging. So it would put an additional strain on the current head count, okay? But we seem to be doing it okay right now. It is, at times it can be a little challenging for our clerks and things like that. But I think we've cross-trained 80% of our office to, under the current staff and headcount, to be able to do multiple jobs and things like that. So they're doing it, they're working at it, and I think we can answer some of those questions in the future, but I really think that the one clerk in the courtroom is probably all we can manage at this point.
So while these might be good ideas, it's harder to implement them in practice.
Yes.
Candice, did you want to jump in on that at all, or?
I will tell you one of my favorite, most recent stories of when I was in a DuPage courtroom. I was there and I had just learned the system myself, and there was an older attorney next to me, and he had to be in his late 60s. Okay, and so I was using the computer to put my order in. The clerk had just taught me, and the older attorney said to me, "Can you help me?" And I was like, "Well, yes, of course." You know what I mean? And so I showed him how to do that, and he looked at me. He's like, "Christ, now I'm going to have to hire a high school student to come with me to court every time." And I appreciate that. And so whether or not there's another clerk in every single courtroom, or there's a clerks that are walking up and down the hall, and because me and this very nice older attorney were working together, we created a backlog because he and I were working together of attorneys waiting to use the system. So I can certainly appreciate that there's a lot of functions that the clerks are being asked to do, and where we're using them at certain times of the day is certainly something that I would like to reevaluate. In terms of the electronic information, I work in a department now, I oversee a department where we routinely are discussing whether or not email communication is an effective way or the appropriate way to correspond with clients, and whether or not that meets the mail rule. to make sure that they've gotten the information that they're supposed to get in a timely way, right, under the law. So I can appreciate that. But there are other courts that do use texting to notify their litigants when they're supposed to return to court. And I think that there's an opportunity to have an opt-in. I certainly can appreciate, as somebody who does intakes with very difficult people at times, when I'm asking them for an email address and they just want to tell me about how their neighbor's cat peed on their porch and they don't want to give me an email address, I get that. And I certainly think that there's can be a developmental system or a system developed that captures that way, that's legally sound, and in a way that helps provide people information as to when they'll show up next. You know, I have to tell my dentist regularly text message me that I'm supposed to be coming in all the time. So I just think that that's something that we can do in our court systems as well.
Yeah. And Chris, I also want to, before I forget, I also want to ask about the website. She made a good point about the website.
Yes.
Look at what you do.
And you know what? I will tell you, Robert and Candice, I will be the first one to tell you that the website can always be better refreshed. I have only so many people that I can work on this, and you know, and Candice knows this. We're the second largest court system in the state, and there are cases that we deal with, and I only can stretch out my staff and my IT people only so far, and we do this. And you know, sometimes the aesthetics of it is absolutely, you're right. I will give you that. I would love to freshen it up and work at it, but I also have other responsibilities. The Criminal Traffic Assessment Act that was implemented in 2019, and then obviously the Tyler Technologies and e-filing has probably put the greatest strain on the IT staff. So this is kind of, you know, and I'm sure there are other ones who have better websites and things like that, and are probably better user friendly. But I will tell you that getting it right for the Criminal Traffic Assessment Act, getting it right for e-filing, getting it right for the internal process of DUCS, which is the DuPage County court system, the unified court system, the DUCS system is their primary mission. And I hope, you know, at some point, that will aesthetically and make it more user friendly. Absolutely, and we realize that. We got a few poles in the fire right now, so we'll get to it. We're going to get to it and clean it up and freshen it.
Okay, Candice, I did want to go back to something that you said during the primary, and I just want to make sure I understood correctly. You were talking about also possibly talking about creating a new website that people can use to access court documents and things. Can you explain that?
Yeah, sure. So I think I remember that conversation in our primary discussion as well. So right now, DuPage has something called the Chris system, where you can access information and depending on who you are, right? So my firm obviously has access to this, right? Law firms have access to that. You apply to have it, you know. Okay. I recently tried to apply as an individual because I was working on a project in expungement for somebody and was denied. So the same information that if I went through my law firm's website to get in to see the information that I needed versus as an individual to go in to do it was not the same. I was not treated the same. And I struggle with denying people access to information, especially on such critical issues, right? So if elected, one of the things I would really like to examine is what information that we're withholding from the public that still counts as public information. Like certainly there's a need to maintain security for, you know, minors and relating to orders of protection and domestic violence, things of that nature. But providing litigants that come into the courtroom with access on their own cases as to what they should be able to see and to know how their cases are being run. And I have to tell you, I don't even know why exactly I was denied from the Chris system. I was using it for legitimate purpose to provide information on expungement. But yes, changing the system that allows more people to have free access to public information.
And this is information that if I went to the courthouse, I can access.
Exactly.
If I'm a member of the public. But online, you can't access it. You have to physically go to the courthouse.
Right.
So Chris, I know we have access to the restricted system, but it's only one account per news agency. So one reporter with the Daily Herald has it. No one else has access to it. Why that kind of restrictions?
It is restricted because, and by the way, there is no coincidence why it's called Chris. Chris.
I thought it was just you that
restricted information.
I completely
Okay, can I be a little, I can be a little narcissistic. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's get that done. Move that over to the left. Okay, so now, the issue here is information. Okay, I've spent 3-4 years now at this point on the e-business policy advisory board, which directly advises to the Supreme Court. It doesn't go through the Conference of Chief Judges. This information has been debated over years, okay? And let me start with this as a premise, and I'm not going to go on too long. The argument was, and you know, Rule 138, as you know, and we discussed, I was on that committee also, and it talks about information and available information and how to make it and how to protect it. Currently, the Supreme Court feels that from 8 to 4:30, which is the general courtroom hours, anybody can walk into that office on an even playing field and garner information. It's the way it is, okay? Technology has changed, and it's changed rapidly over the years. And what it is saying, okay, what if I wanted to know about my neighbor's divorce, okay, at 1 o'clock in the morning while I'm sitting on the couch? Do I have that right? Okay, that's what was debated for years, okay? And it still is debated to a certain, so is that right? I mean, because if my neighbor down the street doesn't have access to a computer, he can't do that either, okay? He can't do it, but I could if the rules allowed for everyone to have access to that information. So we debated for years about it. And so what we've created a new policy, and it has been submitted to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is reviewing it and is allowing bits and pieces out, okay, as access to the information. And there is a tiered group. You know, judges get to see everything. Clerks get to see almost everything. I have a sponge sealed, you know, impounded cases, okay, information. Then the general public, parties to the case, get to see certain amounts. All of this information is being disseminated, okay, electronically, okay, and it's being parceled out. Now let's step back over to Chris. Chris is a restricted information system. We developed this years and years ago so that the press, law enforcement, some agencies, legal, would be able to have access to it. And we could control that because what was happening originally, was searchers. People get on, garner information, take that information and sell it, okay, to lawyers. Sorry about that, Candice. And and they would sell it, okay? And so what we did is we restricted that information. So when Robert gets on there, okay, we can monitor how much information is going out, okay? And that how much information is it being abused? Is someone selling information, okay? And we can cut that off. But most times, I would say 99% of the time, it's not, okay? So we use that restricted as gateway. We have several thousand people that are on that and have access to it, and we manage it that way. Now, going forward, when you have, in case of Candice, when she went on, Candice did you have your IP address attached to it? You would have had, because you were in front of a computer, okay? But you didn't have access to Chris because your IP address wasn't part of our system, okay? So
I applied for Chris.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, and was denied.
Well, and what was the reason for the denial? I'm sorry, Robert. What was the reason for the denial?
I wasn't given one. I was just told that I was denied.
Well, I apologize for that, and I don't know why.
That was you that did
it. But the thing is, so what we do is we control that information. Okay. Now, the information that we have within our record is solely the Supreme Court's. They guide it. They write the rules. They determine who sees it, who doesn't see it, and how it is controlled in terms of going out. And then the clerks are, always take the heat for it. Okay. And Get used to it, Candice. So, and so they take the heat for what nobody else can see or can't see. Okay, but the record is always available at the courthouse. I mean, that's where it starts. Okay, and so we always talk about open court. We talk about open court session. Those terms that Candice heard all through law school. Open court. And so the record is always there, and that's our job, is to maintain it. But the Chris system is there to get out and people can see it, and then we can manage it.
Right, but I think what Candice was getting at is could we find somewhere in the middle? Because right now, if you go to DuPage case, it's literally you see maybe charges, maybe the next court date, and that's it, you know. But
and it's coming, Robert. It is the e-business policy. It was published in June of 2020. Okay. Now there has been some changes and modifications already by the Supreme Court. So what's going to be rolled out is going to be kind of a comprehensive, tiered type of information. Okay. Now not everybody's going to be happy with it. No way we're going to make everybody happy. It's just not going to happen. But it's a start. And this comprehensive board, made up of attorneys, there's a couple of clerks on it, judges, former judges, things like that, are actually recommending to the Supreme Court how this information should be disseminated.
I hate to use Candice's comments from earlier as the leading factor of all this.
No.
I've grown so much since then.
But Candice, again, during the primary, made the point of trying to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Candice, you'd like to get more word out to the public so the public knows what services are available. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
So Chris, how can we do that? How do you think we can get the word out? You made all these, you're talking about all these changes in the clerk's office, all these services that are available. How do we let the public know that this stuff?
I'm not sure. Okay, Robert, maybe you can enlighten me. What maybe Candice can help me, because we're not. Okay, what information am I should be getting out? I don't understand about services.
You want me to answer it, Robert?
Go ahead,
Yeah. So, like one of the things that I'm encountering a lot when I'm campaigning, which by the way, all new to me, is what we even do, or like what this office even does here, and how people can access orders of protection, and how people can access information that they need for expungements, things like that. To even know that this is the department that you would actually start with, right? And look for some information here as the basis of where you can go to and, seek legal assistance or whatever you're going to, but provide more community outreach as to what resources are contained in here or have information about throughout our community, so they even know what we do, that the clerk's office generates as much revenue as it does, helps with, tickets, things like that.
Yeah. Great. And you know what? We have to walk kind of a fine line, Robert, and I'm going to direct this to you. We kind of work a fine line as a ministerial office, okay, between legal information and legal advice, okay?
Right.
And I cannot practice law. I'm not an attorney. I'm not the only one in running this race that is not an attorney. Okay, so legal advice is different, okay? And we've been admonished not only by the state's attorney, but by the chief judge and by the Supreme Court about, okay, giving legal advice. So we have to be very careful what line we walk up to. And we talk about that even with our counter people. I'm not going to get off track too far, but even with our counterpart, because the general public will walk in and say, they'll hold this form up that was developed by the Supreme Court, and they said, what do I do with this? How do I start the process? And we have to be very careful. We give them legal information. We give them as much information as we can without practicing law. And so it's a difficult time, because my staff knows how to do this. They want to do this. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about what Candice mentioned about expungements and things. That again it gets right up against what I believe may be practicing law. Okay. And I would be happy. And when Stacy McCullough would talk to me about doing a expungement type of seminar right as the COVID-19 hit, I think it was around February. She was looking for a March, April date. I said I would absolutely be part of it, but I can't be the face of it. I can't be in front of it, and I would certainly assist, but I can't. There's certain limitations as an office, as an administrative office, that we can and can't do. There are other things that we can do probably better, but more importantly, we have the online orders of protection. I try to talk about it. I speak about, 25, 30 times a year, different groups, whatever, out there in front of it and talk about it and things like that. Yeah, it's an important thing. It's a very important thing. It's one of the few web-based programs that exist in the state of Illinois, okay? And why that's different, Robert, from anybody else, a web-based program allows you to do this on any computer. We developed it years ago, okay? But it will not reside on that computer, which could create a dangerous situation for the petitioner, okay? So we then take that, and when that person comes in, they get a number. They get a number which they should write down somewhere or protect it. And when they come into the courthouse, we put that back up, and their full, if incomplete or semi-completed form is right there. And then we say, okay, would you like to deal with family services first and try to work, because they're up on the third floor, and you want to talk to them first about finishing it, or would you like to go through the process and finish it? At that point in time, then they have an opportunity to finish, sign it, and then we take that and we shoot it up to this courtroom on the second floor, and we kind of send them right up to the head of the class so they can get in there and get in front of the judge, okay? Now, there still has to be a hearing on that order. There, as Candice knows, there's nothing automatic about that, okay?
Right.
And so we developed that with in mind, but we wanted the people to come in. But again, this web-based program, it can be done, doesn't have to be done in the clerk's office. It can be done anywhere. And then you can come in and do it when you can, okay?
Right.
Safely.
Right.
That's the key, safely, because those are difficult times. And COVID-19 has made it even more difficult, in these domestic relationships. So it's a tool out there and things, but we see it every day, and we've expanded to, regarding guns and restraining orders and things like that. So there is quite a bit of information out there, but it does need to get out even more.
Well, I did want to ask you, simple question, and we'll start with you, Chris. Why should the voters of DuPage County reelect you?
Well, I'm taller than I look. Okay. Okay, come on, smile. It's okay. You can.
Hysterical.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But the thing is, when we deal with it, see, I got her laughing. This is good. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So I've been doing this since 2004. I think that the clerk's office since 2004 has probably been at its zenith. We have done so much, e-filing. We were first in the state. We were first in the state in e-appeals, e-signatures. We have moved the electronic world of the judiciary to front and center, and we're probably the tip of the spear. So much as we've already talked about, I won't go into it, that even a national firm couldn't be where we were. There is work to be done. And I'm certainly, I will tell you in this position, there is always something to learn. No one ever understands completely the law. It just doesn't happen. It changes with the General Assembly. It changes with the rules of the Supreme Court. And we are in a position, and I'm blessed to have a management team and 150 or 149 others that do their job every single day as good as they can possibly. I love managing it. I still am passionate about what I do every single day in helping the general public. This is something that you grow to love, and when you see it successful And when you see people, we've had other people, Robert, we've had other countries come to see what we do in DuPage County. We've had other counties come. I probably have had 40 or 50 different counties from the state of Illinois come to say, how does DuPage County do it? And so that makes me feel like, you know, there's no awards for clerk of the circuit court offices, okay? And so we could do it better, absolutely. But we do it really well now. And I would like to keep that going forward into the next 4 years, because I think we can make a difference. It's sometimes we make it look easy, but it's not. It requires an incredible amount of time and a lot of patience and a lot of hard work. And I think over the last 16 years, I've earned that vote for the 4 more years.
Candice, why should DuPage County voters make a change and go with you as the new person for this position?
I mean, I agree with Chris that DuPage County, the system is at a very good spot. But I also agree with Chris that we could be doing better. And we are in a political climate now where our voters just expect so much more transparency and so much more help from our community offices. And I really feel that if elected to this position, I could do so much more with bringing, especially expungements, which are near and dear to my heart, to DuPage to help our residents. I can help with modernizing our website in a new and fresh way and providing new technology ideas that will get litigants in, will get fines paid, that, you know, will still continue the revenue stream here in DuPage, but making changes that will keep up with the times of today. I certainly think that I've had the legal background and the management experience to really make new changes with a fresh set of eyes that will meet the challenges both from the technology standpoint and from the political climate changes that we're going through here in DuPage. And that's why I think that I should get the vote.
Very good. Thank you. I think that concludes today's interview. I want to thank our candidates for their participation. Good luck on your campaigns. The election is November 3rd. Early voting begins September 24th. That will include mail-in voting this year. We encourage all voters to research the candidates and issues in all of the races and to make use of the Daily Herald and dailyherald.com as part of their research. Ultimately, informed voting is one of the most sacred obligations a citizen has if a democracy is to flourish. Thank you for watching and stay well.
Good night, Robert. Good night, Kansas.
Bye, Chris.
Take care.